Chuck, the Children's Rights Alliance today highlighted once again one of the most shameful aspects of the utterly disastrous housing crisis, namely the phenomena of child homelessness and the impact that has on children, on their mental health, on their well-being, and how, as they put it, it deprives children of their childhood, robs them of that precious childhood. And the figures are stark. We now have 3,431 children in emergency accommodation. You can multiply that by several factors if you take into account how many children have been in and out of homelessness and emergency accommodation over the last number of years. We have 1,609 families who are homeless, with family homelessness up 44% in 1 year and child homelessness up 34%. Shocking figures, a shocking failure by the state to look after our most vulnerable people. And as the Children's Rights Alliance highlight, a lot of this is down to your failure to control rents and the yawning gap between the rent supports in the form of HAP and other payments that the government is willing to give and the actual level of rents. And you have done absolutely nothing to bridge that gap, to give people some prospect of being able to find an affordable rental property, when at the same time you have failed to deliver the public and affordable housing that really could solve the crisis. And the figures are stark. In my office today, we went on Daft and just checked what was available in terms of rental property in our area. There were 22 bedroom properties available. The average rent of those properties was €3,100. The cheapest was €2,250. There were 6 three-bedroom properties. The average of those 6 was €4,000 per month. The cheapest was €2,995, and there was one one-bedroom property which incredibly was being rented at €3,445. The HAP rates available to people were a fraction of those rents, leaving no chance for people who are facing the prospect of being evicted through no fault of their own, or who are just looking for accommodation for themselves and their children, of being able to afford those rental properties. So my question is very simple. Will you, if you will not agree to the call we have made to address these matters over the last few weeks, will you now listen to the Children's Rights Alliance, who are saying you must retain the moratorium on no-fault evictions into homelessness, and will you increase the rent supports that are available to people so they have some prospect of affording these shocking rents, if you're not willing to do what you should do, which is introduce rent controls to make rents affordable for ordinary people?
Thanks very much, Deputy. Just at the outset, I want to thank the Children's Rights Alliance for the work that they do. We don't always see eye to eye, but we have very good engagement with them as a government down the years. And I am aware of their report card, which they issued, I think it was today or yesterday. To give it, and to be fair to it, and to give it in its round, it gives the government 2 A's, 5 B's, 4 C's, 4 D's and 1 E. And we didn't get 2 A's last year. And I think it is worth noting that they've given us 2 A's, one in relation to enacting the Harassment and Harmful Communications Bill, which protects children from some of the things that happen online, and also the enactment of the Online Safety and Media Regulation Bill and the establishment of the Online Commissioner by Catherine Martin. There are 5 B's in other areas, and I won't go into the detail on that. People can read it for themselves. On the issue of homelessness, we get a B in one category and a D- in the other. The B is for the development of our National Youth Homeless Strategy. The D, which is up from an E last year, but still bad, is a reduction in the number of homeless families. And that is because, and I acknowledge this, the number of homeless families hasn't come down and has increased slightly indeed in recent months, and that's not at all acceptable and not desirable from the part of government. In terms of what we're doing, Deputy, I can think of 5 things that we're doing to help people who are facing high rents. And we acknowledge that people are facing very high rents, particularly in our cities, but not just in our cities. The first is the rent tax credit. Over 170,000 people have already claimed this. 500 per renter, 1,000 for a couple, 1,500 for 3 people renting a house in a house share, and something we can build on in future budgets if the public finances allow. Second, cost rental is now a reality. Started under the last government, a reality under this government. We need to scale that up, and I met Minister O'Brien yesterday, only yesterday, to talk about ways that we can scale that up. Third, the building of social housing. Probably more social homes built last year than any year since 1975. Not in my lifetime, perhaps yours, has there been a government more committed to building new social housing than this. The rent pressure zones, which, as the DAFT report, and you mentioned DAFT earlier, pointed out, shows that for existing renters, the vast majority of renters, people who already have a tenancy, rents rose by 3.6% last year. And also HAP, and making HAP available to 16,000 more families, more people, by making the changes that we did. And I acknowledge that there's more to do in this area, and we are certainly giving consideration as to what else we can do to help people, particularly by scaling up social housing and scaling up cost rental in the period ahead. Government hasn't made a decision on the extension of the eviction ban. We'll have to make a decision on that in the next 2 weeks, and we said that we will. As you'll know, there are pros and cons in doing so. It's not a straightforward decision, but there is a way you can help, Deputy. We all accept that we can't solve this housing crisis without more supply, and we all accept that it's about more than supply, but we definitely can't solve it without more supply. I haven't objected to a housing development in 7 years, Deputy. I don't have the heart to do it anymore. Developments mightn't be perfect, but it's better than nothing, and it can help. Only in the last year, Deputy, between April 2021 and May 2022, you've objected to 13,015 homes, 1,350 new homes in your own constituency alone. It's not right.
Deputy Boyd Barrett.
Yeah, well, you studiously decided not to actually answer the questions I raised, and just to be absolutely clear on that particular point, in the same period I supported or didn't oppose, but in many cases actively opposed, thousands or supported thousands and thousands of planning applications and the commencement of construction, not least in areas like Cherrywood, which is the biggest residential development in the country, or Shangana, which will be the biggest social housing development in the country, actively supported and pushed for those developments. So some cases, like co-living, I object, or sided with students who opposed unaffordable student accommodation. But what you didn't do in your diversionary tactics is answer the point about, are you going to continue to allow families to go into homelessness who have done absolutely nothing wrong? Or are you going to let more children and families end up homeless because you decide to stand with landlords rather than the rights and needs of children and families who are faced with the prospect of homelessness? And are you going to raise the rent supports that are available to people in the absence of bringing in rent controls, which you should do to deal with these obscene rents, to ensure that there's some prospect that families looking for accommodation can actually afford the rents that are being charged by the very developers who are charging these rents? And that's why I oppose some of their developments.
Thanks, thanks, Deputy. I'm almost astounded by your response, Deputy. Do you really think that you deserve some sort of reward or thanks or kudos for not opposing housing? You know, we all should be actively supporting the building of additional housing in our communities. You deserve no reward nor thanks nor any pats on the back, Deputy, for not opposing thousands of new homes in your constituency or even supporting them. But what you have done, Deputy, only between April and May of last year, that's April 21 to May 22, is opposed 1,315 new homes in your constituency. And where would those people be living now, Deputy, if you'd had your way? But to answer your question, we haven't made a decision yet on the extension of the eviction ban. We will make a decision on that quite soon. There are pros and cons we have to weigh up, Deputy. As I mentioned before, 30,000 people come home from abroad to live in Ireland every year. Irish citizens coming home. They don't all own houses and apartments, but a lot of them do, more than you think. And them not being able to move back into their own houses, to me, is a problem. And also the fact that there are people all around the country who might have bought an apartment in the city for their kid to go to college in. And we have to take that into account as well. We will take all these things into account. In relation to HAP, we do keep the thresholds and the amounts paid under review all the time. They have been increased in the past, and it remains under review to increase them again.
Deputy Dennis.